Welcome everybody. Welcome to Vibrational Dynamics. My name is Ben Drew, Dr. Benjamin Drew. Some of you may know me already, others may not. But I teach Vibrational Dynamics. And this is the first and probably only lecture that you'll see of Vibrational Dynamics. Well, live lecture in a sense. And I'll get on to why that may be in a few minutes. So welcome everybody. Like I said, Benjamin Drew, and this is Vibrational Dynamics. So I'll just give you a quick welcome. I'll talk about the module structure and the delivery of this module because it's it might be slightly different from what you may be used to, and there's some specific details about that. Talk about the schedule of the lectures, the order of the things that they're going, the schedule of the sessions. Talk a little bit about the assessment, and some of the contact details with the various people involved in teaching this module. Course notes, which you would have probably seen on Blackboard by now. Some specific details about that, and then lastly a very small short slide about some of the notation, the conventions. So I'm not actually going to be delivering any content this week, in this session, but you'll see why, where the content is going to be delivered during this session when I talk about how that's going to work. If you've got any questions, then please just drop them in the chat, or raise your hand, and should be able to check yourself and make sure that that's happening. Okay. Right. So the structure, the way this is working, is that we've got about 3 hours per week of contact time, in a sense, or semi-contact time. There's going to be a set of pre-recorded videos every week, okay, and they are going to be available on Blackboard. They are embedded within Blackboard, but they're actually hosted on YouTube, so you can watch them there too if you want to. Then that's going to be accompanied by a 1-hour online lectorial, which is this session, 7 to 8 p.m. on Mondays. I did request as to why they've given me this time during the week, but I got no convincing argument, but with the exception that things are, shall we say, not quite running as normal this year because of obvious reasons. So that's why 7 to 8 we've got this nice evening slot on Mondays, and then that is accompanied by a 1-hour face-to-face structural tutorial which you'll have during the week. And there are I think there are 3 or 4 sessions, so you'll be in smaller groups, and they are going to be face-to-face. They are on campus in one of the rooms in Z Block, the new engineering building on level 3. And so they like I said, they are happening during the week in smaller groups, and there are 3 sessions. You must go to the session in which you're timetabled. We cannot accommodate people switching sessions because of the restrictions around group sizes in these spaces. And so please go to the session in which you've been timetabled. The module itself is semester 1 only. There's no we run this semester, and the assessment will be at the end of the semester, or during and at the end of the semester, and then that'll wrap up this module. Okay, so that's how the structure is going to work. Now delivery. Okay, I'll let you take that in. That's Bart Simpson. I will not flip the classroom upside down. That's what he's saying. Now, so this is something known as flip delivery. Traditional approach to lectures, which is what you've probably had up to this year, has been around, sort of large group lectures, and then you're left, there might be some tutorials alongside, but you're often left to your own devices to go and sort of master the content in a sense. So the lecture, you're sitting sort of quite passively, trying to take in what you can, trying to not be distracted by anything else. And some of you are, sort of successful at this, but other times it can take quite a lot of learning outside of class to actually sort of pick stuff up and move forward. And that's, that, like I said, that's sort of quite a passive learning, quite didactic. This idea of sage on a stage, I don't know whether you've heard that done before, but I'm at the front pontificating about something, and you may or may not be listening. And the flip delivery, it basically flips that upside down. Okay, so now before the session, before this teaching session, there's a bunch of pre-study content on Blackboard for you to sort of take in your own time. Okay, like I said, there are lectures, there's the course notes, there are some exercises for you to do, and that happens before this session on a Monday evening. Okay, now during this session on an evening, we're going to be doing some fun activities, make sort of active learning. Okay, so there'll be some problems that you're going to work on on your own, or with, sort of in this session. There'll be some examples that I'm going to give as well, and it makes this contact time much more valuable to you. You're going to be actually doing stuff during the session rather than just listening to me. Okay, and then after the session is when you go to the small group tutorial, and there'll be a practice of a particular problem presented in the tutorial, and obviously after the session is when you also do the pre-study content for the next session. Okay, now this sort of may sound familiar if you've been to any of the other sessions today, and because obviously a lot of the content and the modules are actually going to be delivered following this sort of process with the pre-study lectures and the pre-recorded lectures, and then these sort of lectures and small group tutorials. But I've been doing it this way for a number of years now, and what I've learned about the process is that that students often prefer it this way. There was I often run a module evaluation of this process, and they you may be apprehensive now, but you will realize in fact that it actually works much better. You desire it to be in other modules. The other thing that's worth noting is that it's the marks you get in your exam are very well correlated with the process that I presented here. So you need to, like I said, it's vital that you engage with the process. It's vital that you turn up, or that you turn up to this session having looked through the pre-study material in your own time, because obviously I'm not going to be using this session at all to deliver new content. It's going to be going over the content that you will have had in the preceding week with the pre-study material. Okay, it's very much important. The other benefit of this process is that when you come to actually do revision before an exam, you actually realise you know the stuff already. It's amazing the comments that I get from students saying actually revision wasn't difficult at all because I realised I've done it all. So that really sort of we're forcing the little and often approach as opposed to cramming at before the exam. You go to the exam, you regurgitate what you've crammed, then you come out the exam and having not remembered anything at all that we've been talking about all semester. Okay, so that's the benefits of this session. That's the benefits of this way that we're doing it. And that's why there was no pre-recorded lectures, because I actually wanted to focus on the process in the first session. And there will be pre-recorded lectures available. In fact, right now, there's a chat message. My voice is very distorted. I apologise about that. I'm not quite sure why that's the case. Seems that other people are not experiencing that, but perhaps your speakers are not connected properly or something. Okay, thank you. I'm pleased that it's not me, my end. Okay, so in terms of this is a sort of schematic of how it's going to work. So this, when I say in class, I mean in this session, is the lectorial session. Okay, and out of class obviously is outside of that. So before this session, I'd like you to go through the pre-study material using the course notes and the videos which are on Blackboard available for you to look at and watch. And they, like I said, the reason I've deployed them on YouTube is because, well, partly because I've been doing it for a number of years. That's where they've always lived. Secondly, it means that you can watch them on any device you might have. You can, if you live in town and you want to get the bus down into town, you could watch a few minutes while you're sitting on the bus. You could obviously watch them whenever you want. Okay, so that's where they're there. But like I said, I've embedded them in Blackboard. You can click on them in order to watch them there. If you want a slightly higher quality version, you click on the YouTube logo in the lower right hand corner, and you actually go onto the YouTube website and you can watch them there, where they'll be slightly higher in quality, just because of the way that Blackboard embeds them into into the website. Then during the session, during this lectorial, like I said, active learning, we practice applying some of the key concepts. There's going to be some feedback. We'll do some polling using the polling software with your mobile phone, and the various other sort of active learning type activities. Like I said, you're going to get to go through some of the problems. Some of the problems I'll go through with. Other problems you can have a go on your own. And then the tutorials, like I said, they're structured environments. That we're going to give you a sort of a relatively high-level problem, sort of deep problem in a sense, to go through. They're facilitated by some colleagues of mine who are experts as well, and that's what the tutorials are going to happen. They're obviously in class as well, and they are face to face. And then after this lectoral session is also time for you to do some independent study on the topic and the pre-study for the next session. So that's a sort of, in a sense, a sort of 3-week process or 2-week process in a sense, with the lectorial sitting in the middle. So the way that it's going to work in terms of the sort of structure, like I said, if you've downloaded the notes off of the Blackboard site, then you will have seen what's going on here. In fact, I've forgotten there was a session here that I've forgotten to include. So session 10. I need to include chapter 7. But anyway, like I said, you'll see this is the schedule. So like I said, we start with the introduction. That's this week's sort of session, but the basic single degree of freedom, so sections 2.2, 2.4 of the course note. Those videos are going to be available now. Okay, and the next session, the next week, this period, this lectorial will be focusing on that content. Okay, and then obviously at the end of the next session, then 2.5 to 2.7 will be released as pre-study content, and then we'll be covering that in week 3 in a sense, and that's how it's going to go on through. So yeah, like I said, I think what I've done is I've actually included a project week in this. You don't have a project week this year. I know you did last year. This year that's going to be a normal teaching week, so I need to change this around. I apologise for that. The basics, 2 and 3 degrees of freedom, will be in week 19, and 20 will be the forced multiple degrees of freedom, part A. Part B will be week 21, and then, like I said, I have got a chapter 7 that's going to be in week 22. That's on non-linear systems and using energy methods to solve vibrational dynamics problem. And then after the Christmas break, after the winter break, we've got 2 revision sessions, and then after week 27 will be the assessment period, in which the exam for this module will take place. I'll talk about assessment in just a minute. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. Like I said, I shall modify this later for the published content, and I apologise for the mistake I've just spotted as I was presenting. So yeah, like I said, week 19 is not project week. It's gonna there will be teaching that week, so bear that in mind. It will appear on your timetable correctly. So this module is assessed with 2 components. Okay, you may have heard the word component in the past. Basically, modules at UE tend to have up to 2 components, and the component A in this module is going to be an end of semester exam. Okay. Now, obviously, previously in past years, this exam was a written paper, closed book, taken where you're all sitting in exam halls with invigilators, and you were, like I said, you were given a sort of a strict time limit, and you had to complete the questions within that space during that time. Okay. Clearly, because of COVID and coronavirus and the other restrictions around social distancing, etc., and so on and so forth, that exam will actually be online this year. In terms of the exact format of the exam and how that's going to work, that is yet to be determined, but clearly I will tell you about it once I know more. We're looking at a couple of different possible methods of making sure that we can ensure rigour in terms of the exam. Because obviously that's an individual assessment, and we don't want you colluding with others in answering the questions. So we'll come up with some interesting ways we can do that. And that is 80% of the module mark. Okay, so that's 80% module mark. You do well in the exam, you're going to be doing well in the module. Okay. In terms of the other 20%, these are going to be made up of weekly tests. Okay. They're going to be using the Doist platform, which I'm sure many of you have used in the past as part of some level 1 and level 2 perhaps modules. Okay. And every test, every week, starting tonight, there is a test that opens up. Okay. And this is part of this process, this delivery process, encouraging you to do the pre-study content, because the test is based on the content that I will be presenting, well, that we'll be working on next week. Okay. But the test is also designed such that if you do pre-study work, it's very easy. Okay. If you do the pre-study work, it's easy marks. Okay. The test is also partly marks for engagement. Okay. So just by engaging in the test, you're going to get 25%. Okay. Clearly, if you engage with the test and get the right answer, you get 100% for the correct answer. Like I said, there are 9 tests, one for each week up until Christmas. Okay. And like I said, you've got a week to answer the question. Okay. And like I said, the marks are distributed such that you get 25% for engagement, 100% for the correct answer. Okay. And that forms 20% of the module mark. Okay. Now, in terms of the number of attempts, Samrat says 1 only. That's not quite correct. You get an infinite number of attempts. Okay. But there's a caveat to that. Okay. First attempt, if you get it right, you get 25% for engagement, 100% for the whole question. Okay, you get 100% for that question. If you go for attempt number 2, okay, or let's say you did attempt number 1 and got it all wrong, so all you got was 25%. And then you went to attempt number 2 and then you got it all right, okay, you will get 75% for that question. Okay, and then if you do it again, if you get 0 for the second attempt, and then you get it all right for the third attempt, you'll get 40% for the question. Okay, the pass mark, and that will happen for the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and so on times. Okay, the reason I'm doing that is so that you've got an opportunity to rectify a silly mistake you make. You'll always get the best answer out of all those options. Okay, but I will still want to award people for getting it right first time, because at level 3, which is the year you're in, okay, things become critical in the sense that you should be able to do these things correct first time. You should be able to check your answers before you press submit, and so on and so forth. And if you make a silly mistake, then that's a silly mistake for which you should be penalised. So there will be infinite numbers of tries, but like I said, it's on a sliding scale. Okay. How will you have the answer after we did the test? Yes, you will have the answer if you do the test. There is going to be you'll get the mark you get. You'll also get feedback, so you can see if there's any things that you can learn from the feedback as well, that will show you the process through which you need to follow to get the correct answer. Okay, and there'll be explanation videos there as well. And clearly, you can also go back and watch the pre-study content. You can ask your colleagues and ask your friends, if they've got any ideas. But like I said, it's an individual thing. You've got to log in using your username and password as you do for Doist, and it's all parameterized as well. So just copying a friend's answer will not give you the right answer, because they're going to have different numbers than you, although the question itself might be similar. Okay, so yes, you will get obviously all the feedback and all the functionality of Doist. You'll know your mark that you got, but what you must remember is that the mark that comes up on Doist after the 5th attempt will still be the 4th mark. It won't be the scaled mark that like I said, I'm changing it. Yeah. There's a time limit? No. The only time limit there is the fact that you've got to complete it within that week. So, like I said, the test will open at 8 p.m. on a Monday. It will close at 7 p.m. the following Monday. Okay, so and you've got to complete it within that session. So the test that opens at 8 p.m. tonight will be based on the first part of chapter 2. Okay, and there'll be a question there. It's quite, like I said, a short question. Shouldn't take you longer than 10 minutes, but you have to have done the pre-study content to get it. If you haven't done the pre-study content, then it's going to be tough for you to guess the answers. Okay, there's going to be some calculations involved. Okay, are there any more questions about that part of the assessment? That's 20% of the module mark. like I said, the end of semester exam is going to be a pretty standard exam. It may be open book. Like I said, it's likely to be online. And so that's the 80% of the module. Okay. So in terms of the schedule of the assessments, this is how this is going to work. Okay. So like I said, 8 p.m. tonight, first test opens. It closes at 7 p.m. next week, and so on and so forth throughout the module. And it tells you the chapter. This obviously has the correct dates on, unlike the other schedule. Okay. So there is a test during that what would normally be project week. Okay. And like I said, and so on and so forth until the Monday, the 14th of December, which is the last Monday of this period, this term, in a sense. And you will that will be the last test of chapter 7, and then at the end there's a revision test. In a sense, it could be a question picked from random from one of the previous tests. That opens on Monday 14th, which is the last Monday of term, and then that closes at 7 p.m. the following Monday, which is actually during the Christmas period. But like I said, it's to give you that week to do that test. Okay. Are there any more questions? Okay. Oh, we're not going over it in a lecture the following week. That's so Thomas Griffiths asked, "Are we expected to? How are we expected to complete the test if we don't speak with the lecturer?" Well, you are having the lecture before the test. Like I said, if you watch the pre-study content, you'll have the lecture before the test. Okay. If you've got questions about stuff, then you can email me. I'm not incommunicado for that week. But like I said, and the point of the teaching session is not to go over the content in the sense this is the content that I delivered in the videos. It's about actually practicing that content. Okay. And like I said, the tests have been designed to be easy if you've done the reading and the pre-study content. Okay, so it's a bit of an encouragement to engage with that content. Okay, like I said, they're not difficult tests. You wait till the one opens tonight. Like I said, once you've read sections 2.2 to 2.4 of the course notes, okay, and you've got the idea of the equations and stuff that are being used, the test that you're doing this week is straightforward. Like I said, it is probably around applying equations that I've explained in the notes. And like I said, you can go in and take a look at any point during this week if you want to have a look. Obviously, you just got to remember that those parameters will not change until you press submit. And then obviously the second attempt will have different parameters. Okay. Yeah. So that's like I said, because of the time limit for when you start the test. Like I said, you can go and have a look whenever you want and come back to it at a different point. Just need to make sure that if you have entered any parameters or any answers, that they will not be saved if you leave and then come back. So you need to make sure you've got a record of them as well. Okay. So like I said, the tests are easy. The marks are easy if you've done the tests, if you've done the pre-study content. And almost students pass this element of this component of the module with flying colours. So it's like I said, it's like if you want to guarantee a few marks for your module, then do them. Okay. Remember the other thing about components, if like I said, component A and component B, is that to pass the module, obviously you need an average mark of 40% for the whole module, and you must get no less than 35% in each component. Okay, so you have to do the tests to pass the module. Doesn't matter how you do in the exam. Say you get 100% in the exam, which is possible. The fact if you did no weekly tests, you still wouldn't pass the module despite your average being above 40%, because you must get at least 7% in that other component. Okay. Okay, let's keep going. Oops. Let's go up here. Okay, in terms of contact details for the various people involved in teaching this module, like I said, my name's Drew, or Benjamin Drew. That's my email address. Okay, if you want to contact me, that's the best way to do so. My office is actually 4Z36, I'm in the new building, but unfortunately, because of underlying health conditions, I will not be on campus this semester, because of because of the restrictions around various aspects to do with my personal issues and COVID-19. But like I said, face-to-face tutorials are happening. They are going to be led by Adrian and Nick Kirk, uh, my colleague, and Neil Larson as well, who's also around, and they will be leading the tutorial sessions. They're both, like I said, experts in this field. You all had Neil last year teaching you level 2 dynamics, and obviously this module very much follows on from that module as well. So it's going to be, he knows his stuff as well. Okay, and they will lead the. In fact, and they also in fact live in the same office as I do, Z36. But because of, like I said, because of some of the restrictions around, they would only be around when they've got teaching to do. Otherwise, they will be contactable via email, which is why I've given you all our email addresses. Okay, and they're all willing to communicate with you. Like I said, if you've got questions on any of the content, then we can all attempt to answer that content. Okay, this session is being recorded, and this will be uploaded. Okay, it is being recorded right now, and also the first lecture, okay, is available right now. So the first sort of chapter 2 content is available right now, and I'll show you that in just a second. Okay. So if I move back to here. So the course notes, like I said, separated into 7 chapters. Okay, we've got the introduction chapter. Chapter 2 is based on single degree of freedom vibrations. So we look at both unforced and forced vibrations, or free vibrations and forced vibrations, both with damping and without damping. Okay, so that very much, some of that will be revision for you from level 2. Some of that may be new. The way it's presented is possibly slightly new as well, looking at different ways of deriving those equations. But like I said, there's sort of 4 fundamental equations for free single degree of freedom systems, without and with damping. Okay, and then there's equations also for forced systems, both without and with damping. Okay, so there's 4 like fundamental equations, and the main thing you need to remember from chapter 2 is how to work with those equations, recognizing the problems and which sort of equation you're going to be using. And we look at, like I said, a number of different variations or ways of presenting those equations, looking at things like damping ratio and stuff. So that's chapter 2. Chapter 3, so we're taking the single degree of freedom system, looking at the forced and forced damp systems, and we're looking at how they respond when you apply a non-periodic forcing function. Okay, so things like steps and ramps and exponential decaying forcing functions to those systems. How do they respond? And other types of non-periodic forcing functions. Chapter 4 is the same. We're looking at periodic forcing functions. So clearly, obviously, the most common periodic is a sinusoidal input, but we look at other types of periodic functions, looking at Fourier series and various other ways that you could represent periodic functions and how they can be applied to a single degree of freedom system. Chapter 5 is where we introduce multiple degrees of freedom. So last year with Neil, you would have done 2 degrees of freedom. Now we're going to do more than 2. Okay, we're not limiting it to 2. We're looking at, and that's obviously going to be looking at different ways to represent degrees of freedom, different degrees of freedom systems, and looking at semi-definite systems, looking at things that you determine from those sorts of things. And then chapter 6, we focus quite a lot on what happens when you start forcing these systems, both with and without damping, looking at multiple degrees of freedom, so 3 and more degrees of freedom, and what happens when you start applying forces to some or all of those degrees of freedom. And then chapter 7, up to chapter 6, up and through chapter 6, all the systems are known as linear. Okay, but chapter 7, we start introducing methods and techniques with which you can deal with nonlinear systems. Okay, so things like pendulums and compound motion, rotational and translational motion, those sorts of things that are slightly more complicated. So nonlinear representations of systems, and how to solve them, how to determine their differential equations and stuff. Okay. So that's the course notes. The other thing you'll notice in the course notes, if you've downloaded them, in the margins of the course notes, there's a little number, okay? So if you look in the course notes for chapter 1, okay, you'll see that on slide 12, on this section, we are currently on slide 12 of 13 of this presentation, and you'll notice that that where 12 is written in the notes, okay, you'll see that there's a slide number and it's number 12. So you can follow along the presentations with the notes, okay, and for all the videos which are like I said that are available online, those slide numbers line up. Okay, so say you're watching a video on section 2.4.2 or whatever, and there'll be a couple of some slides to do with that. Like I said, they line up with the slide numbers in this, so you can follow along, and that's how I've made these notes. Like I said, refined them over a number of years, and that's how they work in a sense. And yeah, so notation, SI units. Clearly that's what we're modern engineers. We're going to use SI units for everything. Units are normally written in an upright font. Okay, so there's obviously newtons and meters there. And if you've got variables, they're going to be in italics. Okay, x and theta there. Anything that's a vector will have curly braces around it. Okay, and the matrices will have square brackets. And then I also use dot notation extensively. You should be familiar with dot notation already, but if x is displacement, x dot is d by dt of x, which obviously is velocity. X double dot is d d squared x over dt squared, okay, which is obviously the acceleration. So I will use x dot, x double dot as my notation because as you gathered, there's going to be quite a few differential equations in this module. Okay, you need to be quite hot on your differentiation rules. You'll be using differentiation throughout this module, particularly the chain rule and the product rule are the ones that tend to trip people up. So obviously I will help you with those things, and I've also attached the helping engineers learn maths course worksheets on those two particular differentiation rules that they're available on Blackboard. And speaking of Blackboard, let me show you Blackboard. So I shall share this. I shall stop showing this. Okay, and I shall share Blackboard, which is up, I believe, on one of my so if we go to this here, no, this here. Let's see if that works. Okay, so this is obviously Blackboard. Okay, I'll just go to the module back. Okay, FXJ number, right. So this obviously there's your module. Okay, down the side we've got announcements and the Collaborate Ultra, which is obviously what you use to log in now. Under module information, I've given some brief details, but I've also said that further module details are contained in chapter 1 of the course notes. Okay, there's my incorrect schedule. I will fix that. Okay, that's in the module details. And then learning materials. This is where the good stuff is. So here's the course notes. Okay, like I said, it's worthwhile you downloading, and if you want to print a copy of these course notes, okay, they will obviously contain latest up-to-date information. And if I go to that thing about the course notes, you'll see that, like I said, there's that section about the margin numbers, and you'll note that along the margins of the small numbers. And that's throughout all the notes. You'll see that they're there around in all the different chapters of the notes, and they line up with the slides being presented in the modules. Okay. So the course notes at the end of each chapter of the course notes, except for chapter 1. So if I go up here to the introduction, you'll notice that at the end of each chapter, there's a set of exercises. Okay, these are exercises you can have a go at in your own time. You can have a go at they sort of go from sort of easy through to relatively complex. Okay, but the full work solutions are available also on Blackboard, and I'll show you them in just a second. Okay. The other thing about the course note is that in the course notes are these boxes. Okay, you'll see them dotted around. So yeah, there's one. There's some more up here. I should just something. Okay, and these are questions, they're called in-class questions, okay? And so what I plan on doing is that in the lectorials, in some of the sessions, we will you'll be asked to go through one of these problems yourself, okay? And then I'll go through the solution. Because of the fact we've actually restricted, it's restricted in terms of time for this hour. Instead of it used to be longer, it used to be 2 hours. Some of them I will go through, and you will not have to do, but some of them I will ask you to go through, and then we'll go through the solutions. And because some of them are quite straightforward, and some of them are a bit more difficult. Okay, and I think that and that's the sort of mastering of the content. I would also go through in each lecture an example. Okay, so if I go through down here in class question 2.4, okay, and then at the end of each sort of lecture session, there's an in-class example. So again, that's not something that you will have to go through on your own. I will go through this in front of you, and obviously you can copy down the note. I'll be using my tablet for that, so you can copy it down when I'm going through it and ask questions about it. Okay. So these boxes don't have to be filled in as you're doing the pre-study content. If you want to, that's fine. But if you want to wait until the lectorial session, that's also fine. Okay. And again, full work solutions of these are available on Blackboard. As will videos of me doing them will also be available. So it's not just here's the answer, write it down. It's me going through explaining what's going on. Okay, and so forth. So you'll find all of those available. Okay, so that's the course notes. Okay, in terms of the content, so obviously chapter 1 is currently open, and if you go in, obviously these are the slides that I presented. All the other thing that will be here will be the recording of this session. Okay, so I'll put that in there. I'll download it, upload it to YouTube, and embed it in there. Okay, and the other thing that's going to open when the first tutorial happens, which is at 2 o'clock, is the first tutorial question. Okay, so that like I said, that's not available right now. That will open when the tutorial starts happening. But like I said, you'll find there's the question. Okay, so that's what it looks like. You've got a question there. Okay, and then after the last tutorial finishes, which is at 6 o'clock on the Thursday, you'll get the solution, the written solution. The question again, if you want to have a go, there's going to be a video of that solution being done, and then also if there's sometimes I might ask you to do a little bit of MATLAB alongside the tutorial question just to help your knowledge, and there'll be supporting files there. MATLAB is not part of the assessment of this module, so don't worry too much about that. Okay, so yeah, so those YouTube, they are. If I go back here, I just turn off the turn this off here. Oh wait, oh that's the wrong module. Okay, go back. What was I showing you? That one. There we are. Chapter 1 content. Okay, turn that off. Okay, so if I go back to the learning materials, okay, chapter 2 content, it should be available right now, but it's not. Obviously, I'll sort that out. There it is. Okay, so this folder will open in a minute. Okay, so yeah, so we've got obviously these are the videos of the sections. Okay, so there's a number of videos. I've chunked them up. They're all quite short. Okay, so if it can sit on 2.2.1, you'll see that it starts up. I've got this. This is the old UE logo, and I've used an old slide format. Like I said, but I need to. Yeah, so this is basically. You probably can't hear that video because I don't think it comes through. Yeah, but you'll see that obviously these are the slides. You can watch them big, and you can, like I said, you can also click them and watch them on YouTube if you want the full high quality. You can see that we've got. Yeah, okay, so those are the lectures. That's how that works. They're all there. Like I said, all the content has got a lecture associated with it. Okay. The other thing I've included is that there's a survey. Okay, that's merely for sort of my information and your information. Okay. Are there any topics you feel need more explanation? Okay, and obviously tick topics that confuse you. Did you watch the videos? Yes, all of them. Yes, some of them. No, I just used the notes. And if you've got any other comments, you can put them there. And what I will do is I will look at the answers to these surveys before the session, and if there's lots of people are clicking, oh, I don't understand complex notation, then I'll go through that in the session as well. Okay, but yeah, you just let me know. I also mentioned the slides. Well, these are the slides for the lectures. Okay, so these are the slides that accompany that lecture, the videos of that section. Okay, like I said, these are slides for you to download and use in your own time. Okay, and the other thing there are also all the work solutions to those end of chapter problems. Okay, so they're all available on Blackboard as well. These are all work solutions, for you to go through, explaining what's going on with the various problems and stuff like that. Okay. And they link up to the notes as well. Obviously, talk about the various sections of chapter 2 and stuff. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the solutions. And like I said, the new folder will open every week. And at the top of this folder, at 8 o'clock, this test will appear. Okay, so that test will appear. You can then go through, log in via do this and take the test. And like I said, marks will be taken forward and post-processed at the end of the semester when I've got all the marks in terms of the number of attempts and that sort of stuff. Okay, that's there. Right, so that's there. There's obviously a reading list for you to go through. The assignments is hidden. Okay. And then contacts. Obviously, that's contact details for everybody involved in the module as well. Okay. Yeah. So that's basically how that's going to work. In here, additional resources. I've got the level 1 notes on mechanical oscillation. Okay. So back in when you did level 1, there was a chapter at the end of the notes, chapter 11, that was about some very basics vibrations. You might want to refer to those. Okay, if you want to, just have a quick revision. Like I said, these are the notes, the chain rule, and differentiating products and quotients. So, like I said, you can click on this. This takes you to a little worksheet. Talks about what the chain rule is and how to apply it using lots of maths. Okay. Obviously, I will be doing that in context. And then also, like I said, we're actually going to be using a little bit of MATLAB in the tutorials just to help in terms of visualization. If you want to revision, then you can click on these notes. These are the notes that are currently being used in level 1 as part of a new level 1 module. But obviously that most of that content is sort of specific to the part of chapter 1, but like sort of actually doing the calculations and doing the various other things in MATLAB, that's all there and it's very similar to what you did back in level 1. So they're available as well for you to have a look at. Okay, so that's basically what's on Blackboard. If you've got any questions, now's the time to answer. Okay, if I go back here, where are we? Somewhere here. Okay. Are there any questions? Where do the lecture recordings go? Well, hi Robin. They are in the learning materials section of this Blackboard site. As I said, if I go back to that resources, I go back here, learning materials. Like I said, chapter 2 will show up in a moment. In fact, let me just sort that out. I've obviously made a mistake somehow. Edit. It might be under 2019 is possibly when it's going to show up. Right. That is today. Oh yes, there we go. That's the problem. Right, so chapter 2 is already there. Okay, let me turn it off. Okay, so chapter 2 is there. Click on chapter 2A content. Okay, solutions and slides are there. Okay, end of chapter solutions, and we've got here the videos. Like I said, you can watch them here. Click on them and click play. If you click on the YouTube button, you'll watch them in YouTube. So that's this page here. Which I guess is that. Can you see that? Okay, so you watch them on YouTube. Okay. Any more questions? So, are there any prior examination questions, similar examination resources for later in the semester? No, you will get plenty of past paper questions. I've got a big pack of sample questions, okay, and sample for the different types of questions, okay. I've also got obviously the past 2 years exam papers will be there with full work solution and with some videos of me solving the problems as well. So that will be available towards the end of the semester. Okay, we are restricted in which years we can show you in terms of past papers, but certainly the last 2 years will be available for you. Clearly, like I said, the format of the exam might be changed slightly due to COVID-19, but yeah, it should be yeah, it'll be explained clearly how the exam's going to work, and there will be past papers. Well, in terms of the face-to-face sessions, it's up to Adrian and Neil how they're going to run it. I suspect they will video record it. Certainly, Adrian will probably video record his because that's what he's into. Because the sessions are going to normally be the same, I suspect there will only be one recording a week of the tutorial session. But in a sense, you guys going through a problem with the person on the same desk as you, that time might not be particularly valuable to be videoed. Clearly, if Adrian goes through the work solution or Neil goes through the work solution at the end of the session, then we'll video it, like I said. But like I said, what the other thing that's available will be available, and in fact, I will show that to you as well. If I go, is that what you can currently see? I can't see it. It's quite difficult because I can't see what you can see. Okay, so you can see that. So if I go back to learning materials, what will be available in after the tutorials that week will be so down here will be the solution to the in-class questions and the solution to the example and the solution to that so that's to do with the in-class stuff. The tutorial sheet problem, like I said, we'll have a video solution to it as well. So in a sense, if you miss the tutorial, you'll still be able to access the solution of that problem. Every week, that's going to be the same tutorial sheet problem. Okay. Are there any more questions? Like I said, if you're feeling a little apprehensive about this learning process, give it a week. Like I said, and next week you'll sort of understand the motivation behind it. And you'll, like I said, you'll also see that the test is straightforward if you've done the pre-study material. Any more? If not, we should wrap up the session, and I will catch you later on. Okay. Well, thank you very much for turning up at this late hour. I hope it's been useful and beneficial, and I shall see you next week.